Well, good afternoon, folks. This is Bill Costanzo, Livestock Guardian Dog Program Specialist for AgriLife Extension. Today we are doing our 38th Facebook Live LGD Q&A session. So for those that are logging on, I sure appreciate you taking some time out to see what we've got today. So we do have some producer posted questions for this month. I don't have a lot, so if anybody has any questions today that you'd like to get answered live, feel free to go ahead and post those in the comments. Hopefully, we finally solved that sound issue, so hopefully everybody can hear me out there today. I do want to thank our sponsors real quick, Lone Star Tracking and also Spot On Fence, along with the Sheep and Goat Predator Management Board for providing funding for the program. If you need any tracking needs, GPS trackers, I'd encourage you to reach out to Lone Star Tracking. We've been using their tracking systems now for, I guess almost 6 years. And the ones that we recommend are the Oyster 3, either the LoRa system, if you've got a larger ranch, or if you're just looking for a cellular version, the Oyster 3 also comes in that as well. For your invisible fence needs, we'd encourage you to reach out to Spot On Fence. They have a great caller and are actively working with us to increase battery life and to come out with some other LGD specific features on their collars. So our first question up today is from Robin Hart. Hopefully you're logging in today, Robin. So she wanted to know when is a good time to add another livestock guardian dog. They have one older lady with a pretty cushy gig, she says. She's going to be about 6, and she thinks that we need to train up another pup. How long should we expect a livestock guardian dog to work? What age should we retire them? And then what does retirement look like? Should we get another female or a male pup? So Robin, hopefully I get all those different questions answered for you here today. But in general, I would say the best time to add another livestock guardian dog is when your current dog is starting to slow down. So, if you notice them not being able to keep up with the herd, or, just laying around a lot more, or maybe having some difficulty getting up and moving around, that would be the best time to, start thinking about replacing a dog. If your dog is only 6, kind of depending on, the environment and where you are, I would think you could get a couple more years out of that dog, before you need to probably look at, a replacement dog and to getting a dog into training. So generally, you should get about 10 years out of a livestock guardian dog, although I know some of them, for different reasons, we're lucky to usually get 6 or 7. But kind of depending again on your specific dog and how well the dog is doing currently, you're going to kind of have to judge a little bit, on that. But I would say definitely, by 8 years of age, I would start thinking about getting replacement dogs, so that when your dog ages out at approximately 10 years, that younger pup has had 2 years of training time through you, and by that hopefully a good older dog that you have now. And one thing I want to point out is some of your breeds do have a tendency to last a little bit longer. I know the Crockachan breed likes to promote that their dogs grow up to be a little bit older and live a little bit longer, and so you've got some longevity out of them that might help, for instance. I don't know that for a fact, but I know that's something that breed does promote. We have had guard dogs. For those of you that remember Queenie, we retired Queenie at 13, and definitely at about 11, she was slowing down, and we were having to go out and hand feed her quite a bit, and she wasn't keeping up with the goats and things like that. But at 13, she went to guard a small show goat operation just outside of San Angelo that had about 5 or 10 acres, and so I never did hear quite how long she lived, but I know she was still alive up to 14, that was for sure, working for them. So on to your question, when should you retire them, and kind of what retirement looks like. Well, like I said, when your guard dogs are starting to slow down, they're not able to keep up with the rest of the herd. Maybe you're starting to have to hand feed them because they can't get into a feeding station anymore, or they're just laying around a lot more than they used to because they're getting up there in age. Again, that's a good time to think about retirement. What should retirement be? I guess that depends on each specific operation, but in general, your guard dogs have a heart for protecting their livestock, and they usually don't want to be away from their livestock. And so, if you have an area, if you're a large enough producer where maybe you have some sick pens, or you keep some of your rams or your billies kind of up close to the house, in some smaller traps or something like that. That's what I would do with a guard dog that is in that retirement age or phase of life. Something where they don't have to work a whole bunch, where mainly they can do some barking and some scent marking, and that will generally take care of any of the predators that are in that general area. You definitely wouldn't want to have an older dog that's, say, 10, still out working on the ranch trying to fend off predators from livestock, because they're just not going to have the energy and ability to do that anymore. If you're a smaller producer or maybe a homesteader, think about having a guard dog that you're retiring, up close to the house. Maybe guarding some, just some of your pot liquor dogs that are on the porch all the time, or, maybe guarding the garden area from random squirrels or rabbits or something like that, that are randomly wandering through from time to time, and they can kind of hang out and lay under some trees and stay cool during the summertime. So that's what I would kind of recommend, as far as retirement for a guard dog. They've put in a lot of time for you, protected a lot of your livestock, and they should kind of have it easy in their last days. As far as getting one of your last questions, Robin, getting another female or male pup, I guess that really kind of depends, on your specific situation. There is no difference in guarding ability between males or females or fixed or intact dogs. I would say, since you have a female, I would recommend getting a weaned pup for sure, so that there's no dominance issues that arise. And whether you get a female or male, I don't know that it really matters. If you like female dogs, then get a female pup. We've tested males, females, pairs of males, pairs of females, and we don't see any difference in guarding ability. And other research that I read all the time doesn't show anything either. So hopefully that kind of helps you out, Robin. I know there were a bunch of questions, and I think I got all those today for you. Next up, Casey Powell. They have a female and a male Great Pyrenees. They're 1.5 years old. They've recently killed 3 chickens on 3 separate occasions. The chickens are kept in a separate enclosure, but sometimes they fly over, and that's when the dogs catch them. And they want to know if I have any advice on how to correct that behavior. Well, Casey, I guess I would say, it is good most of the time for your guard dogs to be separated from the poultry, but in this situation, since the birds are able to get out, I would kind of start over, assuming that you had a weaned pup, and bring those dogs in on a leash, probably tethered up to your side, when you go in to collect eggs, or when you go in to feed or clean the chicken's area. And that'll get the dogs used to being in there, and they'll be with you, and you can discipline them, should they try to grab somebody, or if they start following a bird or something like that. I'd do that for a couple weeks probably. Have them on a fairly short lead, where you can grab a hold of them quickly if they decide to, get a chicken. After that, I would probably just have the dogs on a leash that's kind of dragging for a couple weeks while you're in there still. The reason I suggest having the leash drag is because, again, in case you need to grab them and pull them back or discipline them, you can easily catch them. If everything goes well, then, again, another week or two, excuse me, still doing the same type of thing every time that you go in there, I would bring the dogs in there. and this time they're without a leash or without a tether or anything like that. If that kind of goes well, then I would start allowing the dogs more time in with the chickens, definitely under supervision though. So maybe you're not specifically in the pen area, maybe you're outside, spraying some weeds or weed whacking or mowing the lawn or whatever, but close to where you can see them and yell at the dogs if they try to grab one. The other thing I would do, because you're not going to be in there collecting eggs and cleaning and feeding all the time, throughout this kind of process over a month or 6 weeks, I would have somebody bring a bird out, one that's fairly calm, that's not going to be flapping her wings around and stuff like that, and have the dog on a leash, probably with you sitting in a chair, holding on the dog close, and just let the bird walk around, let the dog smell the bird and see the bird, so that they understand, and again, if they go to grab, I would sternly discipline them. They need to realize that just because they think that they're a squeaky toy, that they're not, and that they can break these and break wings or damage the birds or kill them, which is already happening. So again, I would do that training while in conjunction with the other stuff of bringing the dogs into the pen, and it doesn't have to be very long, 10 or 15 minutes. Bringing a bird over, letting the dog sniff it, smell it, letting the bird walk around. And then again, as you go on, and as progress in the pen, the poultry pen is going on and progressing, if everything's good, then I would just be walking the dog around, letting it sniff things and smell birds and stuff like that are outside of that poultry area, so that the dogs get used to the birds being there and get used to you disciplining them, should they go and grab them or something like that. Again, at some point you're going to have to be able to just kind of, trust the dogs and, maybe have them on like an e-collar, for instance, and, again, maybe have a couple of the birds outside the area that are fairly calm and stuff like that. And as you go about doing some other things, constantly keeping an eye on the dogs, and, if they go to try to grab one, then you zap them with the e-collar. I think if you do that, for several weeks, just kind of slowly, I think that'll probably solve the problem, usually, if the birds get out again. The other thing is, if at any stage, the dogs go to bite a bird or grab a bird or anything like that, I would step back a week in the training, and, if everything was great when they were tethered to you, and when you had just the leash dragging, and then when the leash wasn't dragging in the pen, that's when they did something, then I would go back again to having the leash just drag and work slowly at that phase a little bit more. I think if you do those things, they'll eventually get used to that, and hopefully that'll help you out. If you're still having issues after that, feel free to reach out to me. I do know a producer over in North Carolina that does a lot of work with guard dogs and poultry, and she could probably give you a little bit more advice as well. I don't see any other comments coming in today from anybody, so I think we're going to wrap this up unless anybody posts something real quick here. Well, while I'm waiting to see if there's any more comments, once again, this morning I mentioned about our 4th annual AgriLife LGD photo contest. If you haven't submitted a photo and you want to, I would encourage you to do that. The contest ends tomorrow night at 11:59 p.m. We won't be taking any more photos at that point. So please email them in, although I know a lot of folks have posted them on the photo contest post. If you want to enter, please email them in and select, what category that you want the pictures put into. And Casey, you're welcome. I hope that helps you out. And like I said, feel free to reach out to me if you have any other questions. I'm happy to help you if I can. So that's it for the photo contest. I will say one quick thing. We've got some great prizes this year. Spot On Fence donated several of their Invisible Fence collars, and so did Invisible Fence brand. And then we've got a bunch of fairly large bags of dog treats from Tractor Supply and some other vendors. Also, the Texas Guard Dog Association is going to donate a couple hats and some things like that as well. I do want to thank our sponsors today again, Lone Star Tracking, Spot On Fence, and Sheep and Goat Predator Management Board, who provides the funding for this program. Our next Q&A session, we're going back to a 3 p.m. time, but it will be on Thursday, July the 3rd, again at 3 p.m. I've got a summer class in July, and so that one session will be at the 3 o'clock time instead of 2 o'clock. So if there's no more comments or questions or anything, I think we're going to wrap this up here. Well, I think that's it for today, folks. I appreciate everybody logging in and watching the live feed on the Q&A session. If you have anything or need anything, feel free to reach out to me at the AgriLife Center. Thanks very much for watching today. Everybody have a good day.